What if the most powerful teaching you will ever hear is delivered without a single word? What if everything you are seeking is already shining, but the noise inside you keeps it hidden? Be still, and the self reveals itself. When the mind is agitated, truth is veiled. It's like trying to witness the sun through a sky thick with storm clouds. The sun never stopped shining, it was only obscured. In the same way, the real self never disappears. It is only hidden by the density of our thoughts. Thoughts throw a veil across reality. Only when that veil relaxes, only in the state of deep quiet, does what is always present become obvious. Maya, the spell of illusion, cannot be destroyed by any outward act. No achievement, no possession, no concept can break it. Paradoxically, it is undone by what seems like the simplest and most radical act: silence. This is not laziness or absence. Silence is a living intensity, a force that dissolves the false and lets the real stand alone. For those who abide as the self, whole, complete, and prior to thought, there is nothing left to think about, nothing to add, nothing to acquire, nothing to polish. What remains is only the taste of silence itself. In that supreme state, there is nothing to gain but the self, and the self is already here. Words can point, but they cannot contain the whole. The one language capable of perfectly expressing the totality of truth is silence. Silence is the highest grace. Silence is the purest teaching. Silence is truth spoken without obstruction, the direct communication of being to being. There are many kinds of quiet, but not all are equal. There is the silence of the tongue when speech rests, the silence of the eyes when we stop hunting for experience through sight, the silence of the ears when we cease our compulsive listening for stimulation. And there is the silence of the mind. Only this last is pure. It is not merely a mood or pause. It is the clear, wakeful space in which all else appears and disappears. From this silence, the first ripple arises, thought. From thought, the sense of I as a separate doer appears. From that sense of ego, speech and action unfold. If speech has power to move us, how much more powerful must its source be? That source is silence, truth itself, peace itself, being itself. It is like a precious pearl resting far beneath the surface of a vast ocean, small, simple, and of immeasurable value. To find it, one must dive deeper and then deeper still into silence until the hand closes on what cannot be lost. The whole method is contained in 2 words: be still. Everything necessary for realizing the self is given in that instruction. What could be easier, and yet what could be more radical than refusing the mind its endless habits? There is a quiet consciousness that is fully awake while the mind is quiet. Seek that. Rest as that. The state that transcends speech and thought is meditation without mental activity. That state is silence, not a blank, not a trance, but a clear, alive awareness that knows itself by itself. If you truly adhere to this path of silence, if you refuse to be seduced by every rising thought, suffering dissolves at its root. Be still, lay aside thoughts, be empty of them, dwell in the effortless state of not thinking, not as an act of suppression, but as a gentle refusal to participate. Then you will discover yourself as consciously self-existent, the unshakable presence that remains when the mind grows quiet. Thoughts, desires, even the qualities you pride yourself on, are foreign to your true nature. When desire is relinquished, the mind stops oscillating between attraction and aversion. When the mind stops oscillating, peace, already your nature, stands revealed. Let go of chasing false goals, wealth, sensual fulfillment, even the anxious pursuit of righteousness, and hold to silence alone, the direct knowledge of the Supreme, the light of Shiva, the heart of pure being. How can you stop the stream of thinking? By refusing interest in it. Without your interest, thoughts cannot sustain themselves. Let every piece of accumulated knowledge fall away. Only then do you become the true knower. Only then do your eyes cease to be fogged by theories and projections and become clear and transparent. Only then do you truly see. The supreme reality, the liberating clarity, reveals itself only in perfect silence. Thoughts are the only obstacles. They are the friction that generates heat and hides the light. But silence is not inactivity or stagnant inertia. It is not the mere negation of thought. It is positive, luminous, and more intimate than your breath. This silence is always present as your own being. While you race with your active mind, you cannot taste it. But it is there, like a mountain beneath your feet, immovable, supporting all movement without being moved. It is in this silence that God and the liberated dwell, established in what does not come and go. All who have seen the great truth have discovered it in the deep silence of their own being. If the noise of thoughts does not quiet within us, the ineffable state of silence will not be revealed. So the way is simple and exacting. Forbid the mind from nesting in external objects, turn it inward to the self, and witness whatever arises without being affected. There is no other method. Not for a moment should you wander from being. Become aware that you are aware. Say within yourself, I am, and add nothing to it. Do not let the mind latch onto any label that follows. Stay for a moment with the quiet that blooms after I am. Feel the palpable presence there. It is bare, unveiled, untouched by youth or old age, wealth or poverty, virtue or vice, or any other attribute. The pure state of attention to being alone is silence, free of everything else. Drop thoughts and simply be. Your duty is to be, not to be this or that. The method is synthesized in a single instruction. Be still. In practice, the essential factor is turning the active mind upon its own source, rather than letting it roam outward to objects. Meditation is not adding a new object to chase. It is applying the soft brakes to the mind. Your progress is measured by two things: the degree to which unwanted thoughts fall away and the degree to which attention can rest steady in one place, the very sense of being itself. Keep the mind quiet and everything else is mastered. The subjugation of the mind is meditation. Deep meditation is unbroken speech, the eternal teaching that flows without words. Silence is this continuous language, always broadcasting. Words interrupt that transmission. They are the static that obscures the signal. Thoughts are our adversaries only insofar as we believe them. Free of them, we find ourselves in bliss. Thoughts are like bubbles on the sea, brief, shimmering, and gone. Latent tendencies built over a lifetime send the mind outward toward objects. Let them go. Turn the mind inward. When these tendencies weaken and fall away, the real self shines by its own light. The real self is never attained by any practice that involves becoming something other than what you are. It is realized by remaining still and being what is already true. Self-realization consists in the cessation of all thoughts, the ending of mental activity at its root. That is purity. And the most direct means to this is self-inquiry. To whom do these thoughts occur? As long as you take the false to be real, it will appear real. But if you look into its origin, it disappears. The first and primal thought is the thought, I. Only after this I thought arises do countless other thoughts arise. The second person, the third person, the world and its stories. They cannot stand without the first, because the mind is nothing but a bundle of thoughts, and because all thoughts depend on the I thought, only the inquiry, who am I, can silence the mind at its root. Even when stray thoughts arise during self-inquiry, do not complete them. Do not follow their storylines. Instead, sink back into yourself and ask, to whom did this thought occur? The answer is clear, to me. Then ask, who am I? In that instant, the mind turns inward and the force of the thought is cut. If you persevere in this simple, direct practice, the mind gathers strength to rest in its source. If the mind grows dull, gently awaken it. If it begins to wander, be still. If you arrive at a state where there is neither sleep nor mental movement, remain there in your natural condition. Meditation, in its essence, is simply remaining as you are, without deviating from your true nature and without feeling that you are doing anything at all. Remain aware of yourself, and everything else will be properly known in its own time and place. As meditation is directed to the self, thoughts die of their own accord. Meditation can cling to objects, but when it turns to the subject, the pure I, it rests in the highest. If the mind becomes absorbed in the heart, the ego, the felt center of multiplicity, dissolves at last. What remains is pure consciousness, being that shines in all states of mind, but belongs to none. This state, where no trace of the I thought remains, is our true nature. It is called the vision of wisdom, not a vision seen by someone, but the self shining by itself. The eminent and powerful state of silence is reached only in the heart, the unmoving axis of all experience. The direct experience of being, which is silence, is the axis upon which everything turns. This is the summit, the supreme good. When the vast, concept-free space of silence dawns, the ego's illusion ends. Non-dual silence is the self's own radiance, like the clarity of open sky, free from the clouds of imagination. Those who dive deep in the ocean of silence and drown in it, who surrender the sense of separate I, find themselves on the summit of the highest mountain, expanded consciousness without boundary. The glory of this silence is that one merges into the real principle, God, the ego-free self, by asking with sincerity, "Who am I?" the false first person. This very inquiry is the heart of surrender. Inner silence is self-surrender. It is living without the burden of the ego sense. Perfect silence, where the root of the ego is destroyed, is your invincible nature. Be still and know that I am is God, not as a belief, but as a direct, living recognition. Quietude is total surrender, with no trace of individuality clinging. When quietude prevails, the agitation of mind ceases, and with it, desire, doership, and the tight mask of personality dissolve. In their place, serenity spreads. Remain still with the clear conviction that the self shines as the all and as the nothing, within, without, and everywhere. All we need to do is remain in silence. Before we go deeper, pause for a breath. What does silence feel like for you? Empty, alive, frightening, or home? Tell me in the comments. If this teaching resonates, consider liking this video and subscribing. It helps the channel, and it helps more people find their way to this simple, freeing path. Now let us make the practice tangible. In the instant a thought appears, do not fight it and do not feed it. Ask quietly, to whom did this occur? Feel the sense, me. Then, without words, turn attention toward the source of that me. Do not wait for a visual. Do not expect a concept. Simply abide in the clear presence before the I thought arises. If more thoughts appear, repeat, to whom? To me. Who am I? Return. Each return weakens the habit of outwardness and strengthens the native ease of inward stillness. Remember, silence is not the absence of life. It is the support of all life, like the still seabed under waves. It is not passivity. It is the power that allows every motion to be seen for what it is, passing, and every identity to be loosened until only the true remains. You are not becoming the self. You are relaxing the clench that made you overlook it. And when silence deepens, you do not become dull or indifferent. On the contrary, perception is sharper, compassion effortless, action precise. Words, when needed, flow from a quiet source and return to it. The language of silence continues beneath them, like a clear river under a thin sheet of ice. Let the mind learn its home. If it falls asleep, gently lift it. If it stirs into distraction, be still. If it rests in neither sleep nor movement, remain there. The measure is not the fireworks of insight, but the ease with which you can be no one in particular, and yet intimately present as everything. Silence is not far. It is not a future achievement. It is what you are now before the next thought declares itself. Abide here. The sun has always been shining. Let the clouds pass without grabbing them. Dive for the pearl, and do not stop until your hand is empty of everything and full of what cannot be lost. Be still and know.